Okay.
Okay, we are at the Brecksville Broadview Heights Education Center, 6638 Mill Road, Brecksville, Ohio, 44141. It's Wednesday, December 15th. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as an indicated agenda item. This meeting will be live streamed via YouTube and will also be recorded for later viewing. Consider subscribing to our BBH Board of Education YouTube channel where all recordings are posted. Can we have the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Dosen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
So if we maybe tell what's happening with Mark and Brittany, or in terms of why they're attending virtually too, then.
Yeah, just so the public knows, Mark and Brittany are on COVID quarantine.
So they can
So
participate.
They can participate in the meeting, but they can't vote. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Okay, item 2, President's announcements. Just a couple of things. This is my last board meeting, and I just wanted to say I've enjoyed my time on the school board, mostly because I have made a positive difference in the lives of children in our district. It has been a pleasure getting to know so many capable people in the administration and the staff, both teachers and those other than teachers. We truly have an amazing group of teachers in our district. I look forward to continuing my busy life with the woman who has been by my rock for over 51 years, my wife, Annette. The one thing I would like to see the district do next year is establish a district-run spiritware store and establish controls on what goes on district sportswear and other spiritware. And that's my announcements. Item 3, board member committee reports. Board member committee reports. Financial liaison audit committee, Mark Cahin.
No update on that.
Permanent improvement committee, Ellen and Mark.
No updates on that.
Board policy committee, Fred and Kathleen, and we're going to vote on our policy updates later in this meeting. Sustainability committee, Ellen.
No updates.
Okay, item 4, district committee reports. Transportation appeals committee, Mark.
No appeals.
Cuyahoga Valley Career Center report, Jim Gilbride, Ellen.
Mr. Gilbride is out of town this week. And he said he would get me an update, but he must have gotten busy. So we don't have one today, unfortunately.
Okay, safety and security meeting report, Fred and Ellen. No meeting, so no update. Schools Foundation report, Brittany.
No updates at this time.
Okay, PSO report. The Brecksville Broadview Heights Middle School PSO is sponsoring the Rick Smith Jr. Magic Show for 2 concerts at the middle school auditorium, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Saturday, January 29th. Tickets are on sale starting this Friday. There's still time to get your, there's still time to make a reservation to get your ticket. Sorry about that. Thank you to everyone who participated in Steph Fossé on Sunday in the Yuletide Hunger Drive. The high school PSO is still selling honey baked ham gift cards through January 3rd. And it doesn't just include hams, it's hams, turkeys, pies, and much, much more. The nominating board met last Wednesday and selected the executive board candidates for the new elementary school PSO. Communication will be going out this coming week. Thanks to all who expressed interest in these positions and other volunteer opportunities. On behalf of all PSOs in the district, we wish everyone a healthy, peaceful holiday season. Okay. Item 5, superintendent's announcements. A, 2011 robotics, read only.
Yeah. Thank you, Fred. So that report in there is just for you to read again, just highlighting the great work that our robotics clubs have done in both middle school and high school. So it's just there for people to see. Just wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously, statewide, countrywide, worldwide, our uptick in COVID cases. Unfortunately, today we had 20 kids, between 20 kids and staff test positive for COVID as reported by parents or, us sending kids home. We're watching it closely. Again, I just want to remind people we are chasing a virus here. So, we're reporting our numbers, and unfortunately they're on an uptick right now. I think holiday break couldn't come sooner for all of us to kind of be apart from one another and be at home. We are going to make sure that we are spraying and sanitizing all of the buildings thoroughly over the breaks. We just want parents to know that when they return that their buildings will be completely sanitized. So we appreciate that. On a happier note, just want to report that all of the furniture for our new elementary school has been ordered. Very excited, a little close to the deadline for me, but it's ordered. We came in right on budget from where we want to be. So we're very excited about that and look forward to continuing watching the building come together. It's been pretty exciting. There today, some of the casework has gone in, and so you can really start to see what the classroom space is going to look like. So we're very excited about that. And on behalf of the administrative team here at Brecksville Broadview Heights, we just want to wish everyone a happy holidays, a happy new year. Please stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
I don't think this is new information. So I'm not teaching you about the fact that we just say I don't have that for you. How are we doing?
Sorry, is your mic on, Kathleen? I can't hear you.
How are we doing with our substitute situation here? How have we been managing? And I just had a question. I mean, are we thinking about adopting what some other districts are, like North Olmsted? And I think Brooklyn with allowing substitutes who just have a high school degree to be in our building. Is that
So
too much to ask?
no, not at all. So
Okay.
we're still in, need for substitutes. We are doing better than most districts in terms of coverage. We also have people who are stepping up to period sub for us when we are short. We know that we can allow now, due to a change in legislation, to have people come in and substitute that have just a high school diploma. We talked through this a lot at cabinet that actually this past week to decide whether or not we were going to bring that to the board because it needs to be passed by a board resolution to be able to do that. We're still talking through that. I don't think we're in need like some of the other districts are at this point. It makes me a little nervous. And to be completely honest, we talked about if we were going to do that to add some additional conditions to it. It makes me nervous having somebody who might still be 18 years old substituting in our high school or substituting in a middle school. Not an ideal situation. I would rather have that class covered by a certified teacher by dividing that class if need be. So we're still talking about it. If we do it, we would probably say that the substitute had to be a certain age and have a certain level of college completed if we were even going to consider doing something like that. So we're still working through a recommendation, if at all, for the board on that.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure I thank our teachers for filling in because I know what that's been like this last month and giving up your lunches and your planning periods, because if we aren't going to another alternative quite yet, they must be stepping up amazingly because that's all pretty much we all have. Once in a while we get a sub, but. yeah,
What are our
it's an
fill rates,
outlier.
Brian?
We're high 70s, low 80s for the most part. I think this week has been really good. I think the biggest day we had 3 on fill across the district. So, yeah, I mean, our teachers, honestly, they have, you're right, 100%. The people that are here and the people that show up and that job. So,
Not surprised.
Enjoy the break.
Okay, item number 7. Oh, I'm sorry, item number 6, treasurer's announcements.
When I wanted to add to the superintendent's, something to the superintendent's announcement, just
Go right ahead.
acknowledging that it's Fred Peterson's final school board meeting and just Fred's been a very fervent, vocal and active proponent of our kids and public education in our community for the past 4 years. And as president of the board in 2021, Fred devoted many, many, many hours to board correspondence, which the board was absolutely bombarded with this year. I don't think anybody other than the rest of the board can fully be aware of how much time Fred spent on that. He shepherded the board through some labor negotiations this year. Anyway, Fred, thank you so much for devoting lots and lots of time and energy to the community and to our kids.
Thank you very much, Alan. Okay, now it's Mark's turn. Craig's turn, I'm sorry.
I don't know how you follow that. So just real quick, we are starting the process. We've been doing some building walkthroughs right now to bid out for new copiers. Our current contract will expire in July. So myself, Mr. Code, Paul, and also Bob, although he's been under the weather this week. So we're developing a very extensive RFP process. We met with 6 different vendors yesterday and today and did building walkthroughs. Some of our copiers, I know some of our staff are very frustrated at the moment because they are kind of, with the use that schools give them, they are kind of at end of life. So some of them are 7 to 8 years old. A lot of them are going to be 5 years old this year. So we are looking forward to a very competitive process for that to happen. And then we will be releasing that RFP in January, selecting for your approval a new contract, whether it's with the same company or a different company in February, so that we can get product ordered and make sure supply chain is not an issue starting in July. So we'd have all new equipment start in all of the buildings and obviously in the new building as well with copiers. So just wanted to update you guys that that is coming.
Thank you very much, Craig. Okay, item number 7, community communications, hearing of the public. Persons wishing to address the Board of Education may do so at this point. No formal action will be taken on subjects that are not included on this agenda until the board has had an opportunity to study them. Comments regarding personnel must be submitted in writing through the office of the superintendent in order for the board to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient manner and to provide sufficient opportunities for the members of the public to be heard. Hearing of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes, during which each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak?
I do not have any public discussion cards today.
Okay, other board business. Item A, election of a president pro tem for organizational meeting on January 5th, 2022. I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
You have to pick somebody.
Oh.
Obviously, it can't be Fred.
I'll let others discuss this issue.
Well, there's just 3 of us voting. Do you want to be the president pro tem on? No, I do not. Okay, I can do it.
Anyone else?
Someone put Ellen in there. Okay. Roll call.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yeah.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries. Item C, new revised board policies, final reading. Is there any, anyone that has anything, any one of these policies or multiple to discuss? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Kramer.
Yeah.
Mrs. Mack,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes. Item E, addendum to treasurer CFO employment contract. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I'd just like to say that we're really looking forward to Craig being with us under contract for another couple of years. So I think Craig deserves an increase and an extension to his contract.
Yeah, this is Mark. I'll just add a couple comments also. You know, we've been thrilled with Craig, having Craig in our district and what he's brought. And, you know, for those who are wondering what this is about, you know, we recently extended our superintendent's contract. And so this is to align with some of the compensation that was provided to our superintendent. We thought it only fair to also align him with that. And we've been very pleased with what Craig has done for us. And so really looking forward to you continuing, Craig, to push us forward in many fronts, both financially and technologically. So thanks for all your efforts and looking forward to what's ahead.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Kramer?
Yeah.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes. Item G, parent survey discussion.
So this was something that I had asked to be added to the agenda. As we all know, there's a new school and field house opening up on Oaks Road in 2022. And we're building this exciting, very exciting new building that kids are going to be using possibly 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. And unfortunately, there's not a plan in place to add sidewalks to Oaks Road. And I know that there are many community members who have concerns about kids' safety in this area. And I've also communicated recently with several current and soon to be installed city council members about data from families attending the new elementary school regarding the family's potential plans as to how their students will get to and from school. And I'm in favor of the district sending out a survey next month to get some data on this topic. So I wanted to open that up for discussion.
Well, I guess so. I guess I had a couple of questions because I know we've had some conversation on this topic in the past, and I know we had Ryan from TDA give us some feedback on sidewalks. And from what I recall, what he was saying was, you know, you don't want to put in sidewalks unless they connect to something. So unless they end, you know, at an intersection or a street, you don't want to, let's say, put sidewalks in front of the school and just have it dump out onto grass, because then you would be leading students and pedestrians, you know, to a path towards nowhere, so to speak. And from what I recall, he was saying that the best approach is to do it in conjunction with road work, so that if you were going to redo parts of Oaks, that you would then bundle the sidewalk project in with the road work, and you would plan it so that it would go to a particular endpoint, not just, you know, abruptly end it somewhere. So, and right now the sidewalks, you know, the school controls the property that we own in front of the school, but we don't control the property into Brecksville and into Broadview Heights. So I guess I'm struggling a little bit with what are we doing with this survey results? Because ultimately sidewalks on Oaks would need to be Broadview Heights responsibility for their section and Brecksville for their section.
Yeah, not disagreeing with anything that you just said, Mark. I mean, I believe the point of it is to find out where community members stand and to share it with the community and with the city councils of Brecksville and Broadview Heights.
I just, you know, I really trust in our city and the leadership that is at those cities. I feel like the school is overstepping its bounds here. This is the city's oversight, not ours, not for us to be surveying. I think they're doing a wonderful job. I saw that path that's going in to Valley View, and that's connecting up and down behind our property. But this is the third time we've had this discussion. And if I were on city council, I'd feel a little insulted that the school was stepping outside of its lane after they've gone to every length to explain to us that this sidewalk is a priority for them. They will do it as they're redoing the roads. And I really want to show that I have trust in them, because I'd be kind of insulted if they came here and tried to tell me some things about how to handle this school. So I don't know why this is on our agenda. There must have been 3 board members, but I want no part of this. This is the city's oversight.
Well, let's see, at a city council meeting on November 23rd, Brexville City Council expressed an interest in this information. At a city council meeting back in May, a city council person expressed an interest in this information. I've communicated recently with several city council people who have said they're interested in this information. So, you know,
It's not been a majority. You have not communicated with the majority. I have. And this is not something they're interested in. So you are talking to a couple outliers, and I find this rude on our part to even do this, because it's not a majority over there. And when you've spoken to them, you have not had majority support in the cities.
well, maybe we can go through our numbers. I mean, who have you talked
Ellen,
to?
I'm not going to argue about this. I've watched you and saw, and I am very close with Brexville City Council. You do not have a majority.
All right, well, I'm interested in getting the information. I think our community members deserve the information, and I think keeping our kids safe is a very important, that really should be the priority here, not whether or not Brexville City Council people, you know, which members of Brexville City Council are interested in this. I know some of them are, and I know there's a lot of people in the community who are worried about kids' safety in that area. We're putting up this huge building, a major attraction. Kids are going to be going up there lots on off school hours, after school, on weekends, during the summer, during school breaks. And I just think it's a huge safety concern. And I know other people are also concerned. And also, all we're talking about is doing a survey. So anyway,
Can we call the question? We've spent enough airtime on this. Unless you have something to add, Mrs. Magyar, can we please call the question? This is the third time we've had this discussion.
I think all I would add is that, when you had sent me the survey and asked for some feedback, I called the mayor just to say, is there mayor in Brexville, and to say, is this something that you'd like us to collect for you? And his answer was no. He did not want to, in his words, kind of poke the bear on this, because if there's currently no plans to put sidewalks on Oaks Road, why would we rile up parents or giving them the false hope that the sidewalks were going to be constructed? And so he was very concerned about that. And, we do not have sidewalks around our school buildings now, which or good or bad, we don't. And so the push to have sidewalks on this building, we filed for a variance for that exact reason, because to put sidewalks just on our portion of our property on that frontage of Oaks Road, it was going to be about $100,000 price tag. For that same reason, that's why we filed the variance, to say the sidewalks aren't going anywhere. So you're going to have, 1,000 feet on this side and however many feet on this side, and they were going to abruptly stop. And so we filed the variance to say that we now have a say that when the city is ready to do those sidewalks, whenever that might be, that we would be now included in that frontage of the sidewalk. So, I don't want to mislead our parents. I don't want them to think by sending out a survey that gives hope right now that there's going to be sidewalks, just based on the conversation that I had with the mayor when you sent it to me. So that was all I wanted to add.
well, and I do just want to add that the city of Brexville is a democracy, and I know 2 current city council members who I've communicated with in the last week, Ann Kepke and Daryl Kingston, are both interested in the information. So, I mean, with all due respect to the mayor, the city is a democracy. It's not a dictatorship.
And so is the school board. So let's call the question, please.
Roll call.
It's not a
There's
roll
not a-
call
I'm sorry.
as much as do we want the survey to go out to our parents or
sorry.
not?
You're
I'm
right.
sorry, Fred.
You're right.
I am not interested at all, and I want to apologize for this even being done.
Well, if I could, I just want to ask Alan a question. That is, if Brecksville City Council is interested in this information, are they not able to conduct the survey themselves?
Well, but the problem with that is that we're a school district that covers Brecksville and Broadview Heights. So they cannot, I mean, for the city to conduct a survey of families with students in the district who live in Broadview Heights is a problem.
So, I mean, have you been in contact with city leaders in Broadview Heights to find out if they're interested in this information?
Yes.
Okay. So, but if both cities are interested, and I know in our last core meeting, the discussion on the sidewalks came up because if you look at Oaks Road, the south part of Oaks Road from our school to the city campus, Broadview Heights City Campus, there's no housing on there. So if you were to put sidewalks on that stretch of the road, it would only make sense to do it on the north side, which is where the houses are. So, you know, you would have to cross the street from our school to get to the north side. And then it would only make sense to put sidewalks on that north side. But regardless, if both cities were, and you could do that independent, right? I mean, one city could do sidewalks, you know, going west, and one could do it going east, and they wouldn't have to necessarily be done at the same time. But if they were going to do them at the same time, why couldn't the two cities collaborate on a survey if they were interested in public feedback?
They probably could.
Okay. I guess I just share similar to current concerns that Joelle brought up, which is when you put a survey out, the messaging is you might be going forward with doing something, and it doesn't sound like we're at a place, the cities are at a place where they're ready to put sidewalks in. So putting a survey out prematurely might cause certain community members to feel like we're moving forward in the district, especially if it's going out from the district, that the district is taking the lead on it, when really we don't really have a voice in whether sidewalks go in on Oaks Road.
You're right. We only have a voice in that very small section, but we do have a voice in trying to keep our kids safe.
And we'll do that. We'll do a great job of doing that. We have that path leading to Valley View. I think every effort's going to be made to keep the kids safe, and they wouldn't allow a school to open if certain mandates were passed. So, I mean, I feel confident the kids are going to be kept safe.
Just another observation. Later in the meeting, we're going to be reviewing the transportation study that was done. And I don't know how much the board went through the whole study. It was quite lengthy, but one of the things that the study looked at was that if you instituted a half-mile radius around the new school, and we decided to not offer busing within a half mile of the new school, how many students would that impact? And at a half mile, and Joelle and Craig, keep me honest on this, I seem to recall the report said only 2 students currently would be impacted, meaning there's only 2 students currently within a half mile radius of the new school.
That is correct.
I guess it's my turn. I'm not interested in taking this survey any further.
Mark or Brittany, are you interested? Brittany, and we didn't hear anything from you.
Not at this time, given the feedback that's been provided.
And I'm not interested at this time.
Okay, item H, transportation study discussion.
So Joelle and I drew straws of who had to talk about this, and it was me. I lost. Okay, so I guess to kind of summarize, and the document Mark was alluding to was that we hired TransFinder because this is a really big undertaking to talk about, and it's really big. So we had TransFinder come in and take a look at our transportation and what we currently have, and moving it to a 2-tier and to figure out whether that was going to be beneficial for the district. And what we mean, I guess, by tiers for the people that are not in the transportation world is that right now we have a kind of it's not a traditional 3-tier system, because we don't use the same number of buses in all 3 of those tiers. So it's kind of like a modified tier. But we had TransFinder conduct a study which was 42 pages long, and I'm going to summarize that in about 9 slides because it's a lot of information. So we're going to talk about what the difference between 2 and 3 tiers is, the costs, some of the efficiencies, what changes we might see, some other considerations, and then kind of summarizing everything together at the end. So here are some of the things that are really truly the differences. In a 2-tier, we would have our high school and middle school starting at the same time. When we conducted this study of likely riders, we have 1,243 likely riders in this tier of busing. Okay, so this is less high school students are riding the bus due to the open campus that we've been undertaken through COVID. And we don't necessarily see that scaling back in the next couple of years. And if that stays the way it is, we've seen a significant decrease in high school ridership due to the open campus that we have. Middle school is losing 240 students because they're going to be moving to the new BBH elementary school. So we have less in that middle school tier as well. So when you put those together, we actually come up with 1,243 likely riders for that tier. So magically, works out well, the elementary school comes up with 1,212 likely riders. So that includes kindergarten through grades 5. So as you can see, the numbers kind of line up very nicely. And the outliers we have to deal with are obviously the parochial schools and preschool, but those are kind of included in the study. So yes, this can result in a few more buses than what we're running today. So we currently have 58 buses and soon to be 60, I think, we have 2 buses coming, right, Chris? 2 buses. So we'll have 60 buses if we're not taking any out of commission to our fleet currently. And we use about 39 of those every day. On the conservative side, and again, I want to kind of mention that this is the ultra conservative side, this could require as many as 47 buses. And that was something that, planned for the worst, right? But our internal discussions, and we've talked about with Heidi, our transportation supervisor, is that we can do this in probably 42 to 44 buses. Is probably more accurate. Okay. They're assuming more than 1,243 riders by using 47 buses, basically. In our 3-tier system, 3 tiers, we've got the high school, the middle school, the elementary school. What's happening is you're having more runs throughout the community, but not enough time is between the tiers, which is what's resulting in underutilization of the buses that we currently have. So this happens frequently at BBH due to there only being 30 minutes between the high school and the middle school start times. So that's why we have to drop some of those kids off super early in the morning, and then they've got to rush out to get the middle school tier, which actually happens to be the biggest tier right now because of the number of kids, plus some of the parochial schools and the preschool. So that tier is really big right now. So that's why some of the start times and stuff with them not lining up, it does not help us. So that's kind of a difference about the tiers, but how is this going to affect us for costs? And that's one of the things we are always looking at, right? So our goal is to be more efficient. And if that ends up resulting in savings, that is good for us. So we believe our shift from 3 tiers to 2 tiers will result in some savings overall. And I've listed a couple of reasons as to why. So one, we already have enough buses. So we've put those initial costs, and I kind of put that at the end too, because it's very important that we made that commitment years ago. So districts are moving from 3 tiers to 2 tiers, need to purchase more buses. We already have these. We intend to maintain our excellent staff because we know bus drivers are in short supply. And so we have every intention of making sure that we can maintain their benefit status that they currently have, because that's a huge important part of maintaining their employment. Less hours do result in wage savings for us though. So this will need, while we need to hire a few new more bus drivers, that is going to make an offset in the total savings. So overall, yes, we do intend to have some savings in this model due to those constraints. Sure.
I just want to put a plug in for Heidi Means, our transportation director. I mean, as you know, we've been having a bus driver shortage since day 1 of school starting, and she's done an excellent job staying ahead of the recruitment. And currently we have 3 that are going through that process. If you remember, we talked about last month how when you hire a bus driver, they just can't jump in a bus the day you hire them. They have to go through a pretty extensive training protocol. And so she's got 3 in that are going through that protocol right now. So we're very happy. And, you know, this is not out of reach for us in terms of making sure that we have enough drivers to support this model.
Correct. So yes, again, we would be looking to hire a few more drivers because again, we're running 39 buses. If we go to 42 buses, that's 3 more drivers. We realize that. Again, Heidi's doing a great job. We've done through the negotiations process as well. We are probably the highest or one of the highest paid schools for transportation and bus drivers. So those things we're hoping are going to continue to lead us to making sure we can get those hires in place before the start of next school year.
Are we concerned that the decrease in hours is going to affect the recruitment or any of the bus drivers we have now staying?
So we talked about that with Heidi actually, and we're not alone in offering 2 tiers or a modified 2 tiers. And so she has not been seeing a ton of routes, and we still will have some routes that are of this almost the same hours we have now because we'll have the middays for preschool and kindergarten. So, and CVCC actually. So we have some of those buses, those routes will almost remain unchanged. So it's the other ones that are going to be less. But Heidi has not been seeing a ton of those types of positions being posted throughout other districts. So if you're running a 2-tier, like if you're running a 2-tier model, you're going to run a very similar number of hours district to district to district. Okay, does that make sense?
So there's really enough districts that are using a 2-tier or going to use a 2-tier model that it's not really going to affect, because it seemed to me that the hours difference is pretty substantial.
It is, because it moves from usually 6 hours, which is the average. It moves down to about 4.5 to 5, depending. This we'll see what that number rolls out to be. I mean, what they took from TransFinder were just averages of what that would entail to be. Could be closer to 4 hours and 45 minutes. Our contract does kind of make those routes by the minute. So it's a very detailed process with how they get those routes. So they get it, like I said, it comes down to the minute basically is what it would work out to be. And they have to ride those routes, and we've got to get the routing in place to see what that's going to be.
So I saw in there also that this would improve our performance at the parochial schools.
That is the hope. Yes. You know, using a depot model is the most efficient way to do that. So they have to see whether or not that's going to fit in with the final times. If this, you know, this is the direction we're going, then Heidi can start plugging all of that stuff in and starting to get a model. What we believe from what the times are currently this year is that we can maintain and do all of that stuff because we have some routes that are actually shorter because we have more buses on the road. The actual ride times are shorter in many cases of the buses. So talking about efficiencies, by moving from 5 buildings to 3, we have some inherent efficiencies. We have placements in elementary schools that happen kind of frequently. So this no longer would no longer overlap since we only have 1 elementary school. So what I mean there is that we have a student that's assigned to Hilton, and somehow, or for some reason, whether it's administratively or parent issues that have put that student perhaps in Highland or Chippewa. So that gets pushed off to transportation, which then forces them to have to reroute, place kids elsewhere, and it can cause a lot of inefficiencies. Whereas now sending all the kids to 1 building is going to be a little bit easier of a task for them to do. The new BBH Elementary by Design will have kindergarten through grades 5, which will require the most amount of buses for 1 building. So again, this goes back to, we have to have this many buses anyways to transport the elementary school. And so why would we not do it to make it the most efficient to only run 2 tiers versus running 3? Running a tier for the middle school would require very few buses, because again, if you think about it, we would only be running a tier of buses for about 850 students if they all rode. And I think the likely riders in the middle school is like 450 kids. So at 450, 500 kids, that's really not very many buses. And so what happens is that the driver has a route at the high school, but then they don't have a middle school route. And so what's the driver doing? They're idling the bus, they're parking the bus, and they've got deadhead time associated with that. So it just makes sense. Moving on to, we have some things we wanted to talk about too. So to work, we all need to work together because change is inevitable. So many of the ride times would actually be shorter according to the study. The depoting of the private and parochial schools may be the most efficient. Bell times are changing, so we don't have the final times yet, but they are very close in what the study showed. There may be a few 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there to make sure it all works. But we need to talk about traffic because that was a concern. So we've already been working on that problem because what do we do with the high school and middle school starting at the same time? So the middle school entrance and exit is going to be designated for a bus traffic only in and out. So we are going to separate parents from buses or cars for the high school students who drive from buses, which is actually a safety issue and would be much more efficient for the campus. The Board of Education entrance would then be designated for car traffic only. We are looking at the possibility, this would probably not be done by next school year, but we are looking at the additional possibility that we could extend a driveway through the campus into Hilton to have a third exit out of the campus, which could also improve the entrance and the in and out, basically, of all these cars and buses. So at the new BBH Elementary, Oaks Road was designed basically and designated the car traffic only for Oaks Road, and then Valley Parkway is designated for bus traffic only. So we're doing the same thing there, and again, we're trying to keep that as consistent as possible. And we do believe we can get those efficiencies to have one drop-off location for the middle school and high school, one for the elementary school, and be able to deal with the traffic situation that could potentially happen.
I would just add that on one of our professional learning days before Thanksgiving, the buses actually ran a dry run of this. And the thought was that maybe we would change that drop off and pickup procedure for second semester just to practice to iron out all the bugs. The administrative team decided that they would rather wait to do this when the school year starts because we have fifth grade on this campus. That will not be the case starting in the fall. So we wouldn't be able to know if the bugs are because we have extra people right now or if they're just truly bugs. So we opted to wait to actually do it, but we did do our dry run with the buses to get them in and out to make sure that part of it at least worked. And Kevin and Todd plan to communicate this out immediately starting right now about what that new traffic pattern will look like at the beginning of next year, just so people have plenty of notice to get used to coming into the campus in a different way than maybe they have come before.
So some of the other considerations, again, I said this earlier, the current three-tier model is not really a true three-tiered structure. Again, the true three-tier would utilize the same number of buses for all three tiers. And that's really the only way that three-tier becomes the most efficient model is if you're using the same amount of buses for all three of those tiers. And we're unable to achieve this due to our current contract language. I kind of cut off that sentence there, so I apologize. Our current contract language with BEA, and it's not that that's not a blame statement. It's just that we have to work within the confines of that because we can adjust student day, right? So we're unable to achieve that and actually have like a 7:15, 8:15, 9:15 start time. That's what we have to be looking at for high school, middle school, elementary school to make that process work. So our labor agreements were recently negotiated to align the schedules to achieve this option. Again, benefits for families we can look at too. High school, middle school students, some may view this as a benefit, is that they would be riding at the same time versus running in two different time schedules. Having one elementary instead of three. This is the driving force behind the current proposal. This can also help share staff between the high school and the middle school. This can be far more efficient in whether that staff is, if the staff is moving or vice versa, if the student has the ability to go from the middle school to the high school to attend a high school class. So there's a potential benefit there in how we can utilize staff and classes. And again, whether the staff is moving or the student is moving.
It also offers more opportunity for some of our middle school kids. So if they are able to take and want to take a high school class where before any student that takes a high school level class in middle school, that teacher has to be certified high school taught for them to get credit for that class. With aligning the schedules, we can have middle school come up and take some additional honors classes if they wanted, because they would be taught by the 7-12 teacher and their schedules would align to allow kids to walk up to the high school, sit in a class, maybe their schedule dictates then a study hall on the way back to allow them to come back to the middle school for the rest of their day. So really some benefits and choice that opens up to our middle school kids.
And so in summary, after the thorough study by TransFinder, we do believe that our community is best served by moving from our modified 3 tiers to 2 tiers because We have some cost savings. It's more efficient, and in the study, it does talk about the efficiencies may continue with time as we're able to run through this model. We do not need to purchase additional buses at this time. And again, ridership has changed post-COVID. So many are driven to school at this time, and that may continue and also the same thing holds true for the high school as it remains an open campus. That ridership has been drastically reduced, and we do believe that will continue to be what happens. So what if it doesn't work, right? We always need a backup plan. So it's gonna be stressful, I'm sure, but I think our administrators always plan for the worst. And so while all changes may possibly result in hiccups, if the plan simply will not work, we are able to resort to a backup plan, which is to modify we'd have to modify start times basically and pivot back to some type of modified 3-tier. Next year begins after Labor Day, so we should know within a few weeks if this would actually work, which we still do believe that it will work, and TransFinder believes that it will work as well as the experts in this. And again, they've worked with Heidi and Chris. I think Chris has called them 300 times to make sure that that we hit all the points. So I mean, they've both done a great job in working with them, and then communicating with Joelle and I to make sure that this seems to be the best decision moving forward. So that's it. If there are questions, you have to ask them to Joelle.
Well, thanks to Chris and Heidi. It sounds like this was a ton of work. Thank you. This analysis doesn't seem to contemplate that we're not busing any group of students. Is that correct? Because we had talked back in October about possibly, maybe having high school students not bused, or maybe having a portion of high school, but this seems to contemplate every student in the district.
So when we did the study, I think as mentioned earlier, it was the direction of the board to have us, instead of, going to the state minimum of 2 miles, to look at the least impactful. What would busing look like if we went a half mile out and then a mile out? And so this report, because the number of students that live within a half mile is only 2, it doesn't take a bus route out. And even at a mile radius, it was something like, I can't remember the exact number, still wasn't even a bus load of kids. So in those analyses or those guidance, what am I trying to say?
Parameters.
The parameters that were given by the board didn't impact. So this is what you're going to see regardless if we looked at a half mile or mile. Certainly we could go back to TransFinder again, but again, every time we ask them to do a study, it costs more money for us to do that and look at a different distance radius from the schools to see if it would impact. But I think this is our reality, and this is what it's going to look like to bus all of those kids to the elementary school. We've been talking about this for 2.5 years, which is why we had increased our bus fleet, because we knew that we were going to need more than what we had. And so I think, even if we looked at changing that, which sounds irrelevant now because it's 2 kids at a half mile and it's only a handful of kids at a mile radius, we should probably keep our busing the same in terms of we're offering busing to every single child regardless of where they live, and we should continue to do so.
Yeah, just to add on to that, because the report itself, they also looked at the, going to a mile for the high school and the middle school. And keep in mind, the high school and the middle school, while they're on the same campus, when you do the mile, I don't know, I think they go from like the front door of the school. So, you'd actually have a different radius from the high school versus the middle school potentially. And they looked at it as what if you did a unified walk zone for the high school, middle school campus? What would that look like? Meaning how many students would you be able to, in essence, not provide busing for? And they found issues with it. They found safety issues because you would be encompassing students that live in places without sidewalks, and some students would have to walk across the 77 interchange bridge. And so for safety reasons, their transponder study suggested to not go down that path and try to limit busing. So it seemed like the view wasn't worth the climb there on not providing transportation. But the good news is, and again, thank you, Craig, for putting the slideshow together to kind of distill 42 pages down into a handful of slides. But, you know, I think as a district, we've been forward looking where we bought buses ahead of time, knowing that when the school opens, we're going to need a bigger fleet. So we have that fleet now. So as a district, we've invested capital already so that we would have the buses. And then we were also forward looking in our recent contract negotiations to ensure that we had language that would provide us the opportunity to synchronize start and end times more closely at the high school, middle school, so we could explore a two-tier model. So I think everything seems to have lined up pretty well. You know, while there are some cost savings and there will be some from a bus driver standpoint, for some there will be less compensation. You know, I think we can probably be creative in working with our staff to try to retain them. So, you know, just like we've done so far, where we were having difficulty recruiting more bus drivers into the pipeline, the board authorized adjustments in compensation so that we could attract more, you know, more candidates, and that seems to have been paying off. So I think this looks good, you know, and the fallback is if we really had to, we could pivot quickly back to 3-tier. But the hope is that, you know, we could make this work and have a more efficient model that would leverage our buses in a better manner.
Any other questions?
Any further discussion?
I just had one quick question, and I don't know if I missed an email or an attachment. Mark, the study you referenced, like the long study you referenced in the report, where was that located? I seem to have missed that.
So right now it's in board docs, but it's in the executive content area, and which a lot of stuff gets put there until we meet. So it should get moved into the public section.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, thank you.
No worries.
It's the trans finder report.
Yeah,
Right.
apparently I'm not signed into board docs. I'm just on the web.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. It's 42 pages, so buckle up if you want to read it all.
Sure, a little Saturday afternoon.
Kathleen? Nice.
Thanks.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Okay.
we already did the recognition, so that's okay. We can.
Yeah, item 9, superintendent's other business.
Well, sorry to jump in. I actually wanted to recognize Fred's service also, and I know Ellen had done it earlier, but I saw that agenda item, so I was waiting for this. So if I could just slide it in real quick, I did want to express my thanks and appreciation for Fred for the 4 years you've served this district. You came on to the board at a very unique time in history, and you know, many more people have started to dial in to these meetings, and with the pandemic and all of the upheaval that's gone on the last couple of years, this has not been an easy time to be a board member. And so I just want to offer my appreciation and thanks to you for servicing our district. You know, you stepped up, and like most board members I've served with, you know, you did it for the right reason, which is just to give back to the community and to try to help make contributions to our district and leave it better off than when you got here. And I think you've done that. So appreciate all that you've done for the district, and best of luck on the road ahead.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, item 9.
Well, I want to mirror what Mark said as well. I am thankful that you could go to a lot of the things that a lot of us couldn't go to. And I know the community has appreciated your attendance there, because oftentimes we didn't have a board member there. So I appreciate you attending, and you took such joy in it. And, you know, it's a wonderful thing to see the operation during the day. And you know, it's a gift, but it's a gift that you were able to like come back and report to us. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I have to just say one thing, following your remarks. I put my flower on that I got last Friday at the National Honor Society induction ceremony. It still held up pretty well today. And as I told them there, it's the closest I've ever gotten to a National Honor Society induction ceremony. So it really meant something to me to be able to go to 4 of them. Okay, now item 9.
Fred, if I can just jump in, and I know, you know, I'd love to, continue to sing your accolades and just continue to express my appreciation for your time on the board as well. You've been a great friend and a great teacher, and I appreciate the time that you've dedicated to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it. Okay, item 9,
Anybody else?
superintendent's other business. A, nutritional standards for lunch, for school lunch. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there any discussion?
Just, how does this differentiate from, say, I'm trying to count how 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when Michelle Obama instituted a lot of those? Is it similar to it when those massive changes happened with school lunches? Or,
I mean, some of the nutritional standards have not changed since Michelle Obama was in place. What this is now we have to just acknowledge that the board is recognizing the nutritional standards each year. So this just went into effect, new legislation here in October. So this is the first time that you would recognize the nutritional standards that we provide for our kids at lunch. This is something that you'll see annually that should happen closer to the beginning of the school year rather than in the middle of the school year.
okay, so
Yeah.
there's no comparison to
No.
it, it's just protocol.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Kramer?
Yeah.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes. Item 10, superintendent's consent agenda. A, certified recommendations. B, classified recommendations. C, supplemental recommendations. D, approval of superintendent's consent agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Any questions about any of the recommendations?
Okay, and no discussion, so roll call?
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes. Now, item 11, treasurer's consent agenda. A, financial report. B, authorized treasurer CFO to request tax advances. C, donations. D, transfers. E, minutes. F, approval of superintendent, the treasurer's consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Oh, so moved.
Second,
Craig?
Okay, so I have a little bit of updating to do. Our first priority was after we got the contract ratified for the support staff. So we approved the new 5-year forecast. So I unfortunately did not have enough time to get everything aligned. So this actually shows the new forecast amounts though. So it shows that we're a little bit better off at the end of the year though, because I've not been able to go in there and update how those negotiations have affected this piece of it. So it's still, I mean, it looks good, but it probably will not be that good once I revise some of the information that's in here on the revenue side. So it's almost like it's not there, but overall it's unfavorable by 65,000. It's favorable in expenditures by 577,000. And then it's overall favorable of 512,000 to the actual forecast as it stands. So if you recall from the 5-year forecast, we should end closer to about $110,000 or $120,000, I think it is. So we're basically at a balanced budget is where we're hoping to be. I mean, anything more than that's great. This is our comparison from year over year compared to the prior year. So you can see revenue side, we are down in both. We're in both state revenue and other revenue. State revenue, I just wanted to point out that, as I said before, when they said, and we'll have the state numbers in your new funding formula done by December, they have failed once again. So they're very close now though. So what they did was they processed all of our December payments super early because I guess they have to take the whole system down. And so now they're saying we'll get our final numbers in January. So while we've continually seen less and less and less, I'm hoping that once we get to January, they'll have done some corrections. They have just assured us that by the end of the fiscal year, we will have received what we are supposed to receive. So we will see how this plays out, but they are very, very far behind schedule. So that's why we continue to see state revenues below projections, because the numbers we put in are basically the simulations they gave us. So they should be very, very close. And with them not being there, I think it's because they have not been sending us the right amounts of money to date. And so they're either going to catch up or they're going to just stretch it So we'll see a slow increase to get us where we're supposed to be.
Any particular reason why all other revenues are down?
No, not particularly. It's not very much. I mean, it seems like a lot of money, but it's really not. Some of this is how the money is coming in and fluctuating with the all-day kindergarten. We've changed how that structure is. So in the past, we required people to make these monthly payments, and we've kind of given a little bit of free range for parents to do that. So we had a bunch of people who paid everything in full. We have some that are doing payments, and we have some that are just paying kind of like like they're paying every other month or every 3 months. They have to be paid by March. So I think that's what a lot of our other revenue accounts for is some of those all-day kindergarten tuitions. And so that cash flow has just kind of changed a little bit for this year because of the way we've changed it. So again, in the past, they were able to pay monthly all the way through April, and now we're having them pay by March. And then hopefully we don't have to hunt people down. We're trying to give them more flexibility in how this works. Because I mean, some people will just pay it off when they get their tax returns or whatever. So we'll see how that plays out later in the year. So on the expenditure side, we're doing pretty well. We're doing a little bit less on expenditures. We're continuing to see purchase services still trending a little bit below what we had projected, which is good because we kind of bumped up in a couple areas on the forecast just because we still have some uncertainties going on that we have to partake in some of our departments. But that's a good sign to see that that's below where it's supposed to be. Until I talk to Chris Code, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Just kidding, Chris, just kidding. So we have our salaries and benefits were up $800,000 in comparison to last year. Again, a lot of that is going to be because we've had step advancements, the new contract, all that stuff's in place, has been planned for. And this is where it puts us at the end. So we can see we're still very close to those projections of the forecast versus the total expenditures. And so right now we are doing good. The authorization of the request for tax advances, this is due. We do this every year so that we can get those tax advances as early as January. I told you all today we were getting broke with our bank, with our checking account. We have money, don't worry, but it's just in investments right now. But this is the lowest point of our cash balances for the year because of the way the taxes flow. So this allows us to start collecting money earlier than anticipated. So we'll get our first payment on January 15th-ish from the county, which will start to put that money back into the checking account so we can leave that other money in invested accounts to earn as much interest as we can, which is now starting to uptick. Thank you to the economy for right now. Donations are here. Transfers, we're doing 2 transfers, which are our annual transfers, $25,000 from our general fund into our turf replacement fund, and then $25,000 from our general fund to CAPA. And that's all.
I had one question. I understood the Senate was supposed to vote on that bill that will not allow school districts to contest a
Property
reevaluation.
taxes.
House Bill 126.
Yeah.
Did it
Thank you.
pass?
What?
Does anybody know if it passed?
Yeah, I'm just
It
curious.
passed the House. The Senate was supposed to vote on it today at 1:30. I have not heard what the outcome of that vote was.
I think it has to go back to the House after the Senate though,
Okay.
because it's been modified.
Yes.
So I have not heard either. They've not sent anything out. But oops, I'm sorry. Website is talking about though is it is legislation that it's not on a residential standpoint, but their House Bill 126 is some pet project for a senator or I know House Bill or sorry, a representative that is trying to make it basically very difficult for school districts to file property tax complaints. And it doesn't affect us on the residential side because we don't file tax complaints to any of our residents. But on the commercial side, it could be devastating. We have some that have come through since I've been here and I mean, through COVID that valuation changes are in the millions. So it's, property's worth $10 million and they're trying to ask for $5 million. And the fact that we can't do anything about that, or if someone sells a property at a really cheap price, we can't contest that is potentially a very huge amount of revenue that we could lose. And so I don't know where it's at, but it's going to go back to the House. So I would encourage any of our residents to reach out to their representatives and senators to tell them to vote no.
Well, and we know our representative, Phil Robinson, will vote no.
And our senator is against it as well. So Matt Dolan is against it as well.
Good to know. All right, is there any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Kramer?
Yeah.
Mrs. Mack?
Yeah.
Mr. Peterson?
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
For the minutes.
Yes.
I don't think the minutes are correct. It has me absent. I don't know if Mrs. Wigman was absent.
It should have had a time where you come back, because let me look.
I wasn't there at the beginning, that's true, but, is that correct?
It should have where you entered. I'll double check. Because you came in at a later time, I believe, correct?
Mrs. Wigman also absent again?
Yes, she came 5 minutes late. Those should be noted on here. I don't see it, so I apologize.
Can we remove that from what we're voting on?
Yeah, we'll redo that because I know it's on my notes that were there. So yeah, Brittany came at 5:40, and you arrived at 6:40. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the exec session, yeah.
That wasn't in the exec session.
Right.
You were there for the whole session.
Yeah, because your votes come in later, right? Yeah, you have votes in for it later, so it's just not noted. Oh yeah, it does. Actually, I take that back. It says Kathleen Mack arrived at the meeting at 6:40 p.m. under item B. And then Brittany Wigman arrived at the meeting at 5:40 under number 2. So it is in the minutes, yes.
Okay,
I was like, I know I put those in there.
okay,
Okay.
roll call.
Yeah,
Oh, you were the last vote, so yes. Okay. She's like, I'm not voting for that.
no, I just want to make sure.
No, thank you for checking. It's like hidden on there. So we're good.
Okay, we're
Yeah,
good.
she was the last vote.
Okay, item 12, closing items, announcement. Anybody have any announcements? Adjournment? Roll call?
Motion.
I'm sorry, may I have a motion? My last time.
Second.
Now, roll call?
Are you sure? Do you want to do another one?
Well, before we adjourn, I apologize. The next board meeting will be January 26th, 2022.
It'll be January 5th.
Well, that's
Well,
not a board meeting.
the
That's
next-
That's the organization.
Public
Gotcha.
board. Yes.
you had it right, Fred.
He had it right.
Go out with a bang.
I'm going to.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes,
Mrs. Mack,
yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes, meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Same to you.
Merry Christmas to all.